the ground. Now, tell me that there is a lawsuit going on this matter, is there not?
There is, sir.
And the federal government is being sued, but because of the mercy and the charity of the plaintiffs in that lawsuit, it has never progressed to the point where it is going to lead to a judgment. Is that right?
There was some oral arguments taken in March of this year. The basic gist of those arguments was whether there was a final action of the government, whether NRC was going to rule. So that was the gist of the oral arguments. We haven't heard anything since.
I'm just a poor Polish lawyer from Detroit, but you have stated that DOE officials stated they held frequent meetings and focus groups to help guide the shutdown. Can you tell me what that means?
We had a hard time knowing what that means, so we asked...
Hey, does DOE know what that means?
Well, I think they know what it means, but we asked them to sort of, could they at least document what they had in terms of a shutdown?
Could they explain it to you?
They said they had a draft plan. They were working on it. This is something the IG looked at.
Has that draft plan been submitted to anybody, Mr. Chairman?
I think...
No, sir. The draft plan was not completed, and instead the department moved ahead as expeditiously as possible to shut down by the end of fiscal 10.
Could we get the draft plan? I think it would be nice if you would share it with us. Would you submit it, please?
I honestly don't know if it's completed, sir. If it's available, yes, I don't know.
Submit the darn thing to the committee, and we'll tell you what we think of it. Now, in your testimony, Secretary Lyons, you said that DOE takes exception to a statement in the GAO report that a final impact of terminating Yucca Mountain is that communities may be even less willing in the future due to further erosion of DOE's credibility. You go on to say that on the contrary, a new start could lead to enhancement of the credibility of the department's approach. I don't mean to make light of a difficult situation, but to your knowledge, have communities around the country been volunteering to host a nuclear waste repository?
Yes, sir. There have been communities that have corresponded with the department.
Who has volunteered to do this?
One I'm aware of is in New Mexico, around the Carlsbad area. There may be others. I don't know.
Is that for high energy waste?
Again, this is a local communities supporting. Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Friedman, how much is closing out the Yucca Mountain project costing the federal government?
The closeout
yearly basis, or
you know, Mr. Dingell, I'm not sure of the answer to that question.
Would you please get it and submit it?
If I can, I certainly will.
It isn't going for peanuts, is it? It's costing lots of money, isn't it?
No, they've spent a great deal of money on the licensing support network and finalizing some of the technical studies that have been done.
Now, how much is it estimated that the closeout of Yucca will impact the Department of Energy's environmental remediation liability? Do you have any estimate on that?
We do. We expect that it will be...
Would you submit that and the answer to that for the record?
I certainly will.
Give it to me right now. Now, how much has the United States invested in the Yucca Mountain project? How much of that was from the Nuclear Waste Fund, i.e. the ratepayers, and how much from the federal government, i.e. the taxpayers?
It was about two-thirds, one-third. Two-thirds from the rate fund, about $10 billion.
What does that come down to, Mr. Gaffigan?
Where is that, what?
How much does that come down to coming out of the skin of the ratepayers and the taxpayers?
$10 billion from the ratepayers and about $5 billion from the taxpayers. And that doesn't include any of the judgment fund.
Now, you know, fellas, I know my questions seem repetitive, and everybody who comes up here from the department gets the same dose. Because we've all heard about how much spent nuclear fuel is stored at various sites around the country. And we just store the damn stuff. We don't process it the way the French do, but we dig holes that cost lots of money. And then we sit around and you guys come up and explain to us, and then after a little while later, somebody else runs the committee, and then you come up and explain to us again, or your successors do. And so we've got a facility here that everybody wants to do something with. We've got a resource that we're not using. We're threatening nuclear, which is extremely important to this country and energy shortage and in all the other problems that we have. And it seems that we have no long-term plan for dealing with spent nuclear waste. And the best we can say is that you seem to be proceeding down a very dangerous path with more and more and more and more of this stuff piled up. And members of the Congress need to know what's going on. We need to protect the funds collected, and we need to have a long-term solution, either storage that will work or reprocessing. And when are you going to get to this? This question was going on when I was chairman of the committee. As a matter of fact, it was going on when I was a young member of this body. When is it that I can look forward to being young enough that I'm going to get an answer on these questions?
I think the best answer, sir, is that is the charge of the Blue Ribbon Commission. They will have their interim report in July of this year. I am looking forward to that report, and I, too, have been working many years to understand what the long-term solutions acceptable in this country will be.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlemen, time's expired. Just for notice to my colleagues, first a question